Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And the new Violet and Diablo have dropped in the game just a couple hours ago, and they seem to be decently good for a traditional blue stacking team. Now, we do have their full kits. We already knew most of their skills from the actual live stream that happened this morning, so a lot of this will not be new information. So I'll kind of just quickly go over them again. Diablo is Space Physical Primal Demon Tempest Elite Commander. He uses a Space Lance, so if you have a weapon carried over from the old Space Velzard, you can just put it on him and call it a day. Otherwise, you had to make a new one because I think she's the only one that uses a Space Lance. But he is an AoE, 300%, gives everybody extra pierce power. And then his first skill is Primal Demon and Commander allies get 100% physical attack, which is quite hefty, but it's only on these two categories, and it's physical attack. So there's actually three different conditions here. Primal Demon, Commander, physical, for it to actually matter. And then his pierce rate is universal. Anybody can have that, which is fine. His second skill is a full board change, 6 greens to 6 blues. If you only have 2 greens, then perfect. It'll change those two. It'll change any number of green orbs to blues, which is fantastic for most things. Because, this is directly contrasting, Tempest Elite Shuna, who just came out, where she changes everything to blue if you're on Tempest Elite. It's 5 extra point cost. But it does cover everything. But you are locked to only having those characters being Tempest Elite. So, I mean, there's a little bit of a trade-off there. Keep going. His Valor trait, he seals body and spirit skills. And if you're going against a Vengeance team, sure. But, I mean, Vengeance teams aren't that scary. If you can kill them by turn 3, then Vengeance won't activate. So it's not truly that useful. And then his actual trait, if you happen to pull dupes of him, he gets extra pierce power if you send 6 blues on the prior turn. So, I mean, it does give him a little bit extra damage. Not truly impactful, so dupes definitely not necessary for Diablo. It's not protection gauge, it's not skill points, it's not even alt gauge on him, so you don't need dupes in Diablo. But what I want to point out is his categories, right? His limitations. So Primal Demon and Commander looks like this. Okay, I mean, there's a solid amount of units in here, but physical. It's a physical attack buff, which means that only physical characters are going to benefit. And once you add that in, it gets considerably smaller. Guy, still a good team. Going to be really, really good for this meta. Warrior's Mind Rimuru can also be good at rushing ults for space units, which we're going to have a few of those. Yome is not good for this team. Diablo, obviously. Warrior's Mind Violet, even though you'll be missing half of her support, she is a blue orb changer, and she does at least have the ult resistance down effect that you can benefit from. And then New Year's Blessing Rimuru, who doesn't really belong in this team. And then you have a bunch of old 5-star characters, a lot of which are just not meant to do damage. Like Violet, single target, fine, but free to play, old, free to play, old, free to play, a healer, not damage focused, a support, and not good. So realistically, if you're wanting to use Diablo's buff, this is what you're looking at. This is not what I would call a great buff, okay? Commander and Primal Demon. Primal Demons have a few units, and they will get more over time. Commander is hit or miss, right? Sometimes we get them, sometimes, a lot of times we don't. So Diablo's, buff skill on paper looks cool because it's a really high number, 100% physical attack, but in practice, looking at this list, it doesn't affect that many good units. So it's not truly a great skill. And then his universal pierce is kind of like, yeah, whatever. There's no extra modifier on it. It's just, hey, you get pierce. That's not a lot of inherent extra damage output. So it does hurt him a little bit. So Diablo, fairly limited. His orb changing is cool, but Guy exists. There are other green orb changers, so I'd give him right now, I'd give him like a 7. A solid 7. He could be a lot higher if his limitations weren't so great, if he just gave people physical buff, like Visions of Coleus Violet, right? She just gives everybody magic buff for the same cost. And while it doesn't have an additional effect on it, it's just straight up 100% magic attack. So any magic character can benefit, which makes her really, really good for a magic team. The same cannot be said about Diablo. Fountain of Wisdom Rimuru is a lower physical buff, 65%, but it's any physical character. And that's what makes him versatile, and that's why he's been so useful even after a year of being out. So Diablo will unfortunately get capped and power crept out when you can't put him on other teams where you might want to use a physical buffer. So that's a little bit unfortunate right there. And then we move on to Violet, who looks to be like super crazy, oh my god, because of her protection skill. For this turn, any battle skill can be activated an unlimited number of times, except for skills that have a hard cap built into them. So when I say that, I'm talking about the hero, right? The rewind skill. It has in its description once per battle. Using Violet does not negate this once per battle condition. You can still only use rewind once. The same with the Unity Orbs from Visions of Coleus Rimuru or New Year's Rimuru, right? It has the limitation of once per battle. Again, you cannot use Rainbow Orbs every single turn. That'd be really cool, really broken. You can't do it. What you can do, however, is you could do, let's see, where is she? Adventurer Shizu. She's buffing World of Fantasy Fount of Wisdom. The new Diablo is on Fount of Wisdom. She buffs 15% attack, unlimited. So what you could do is you could use Shizu's buff, and then use it again, and again, and again, and again, in the same turn, as long as you have the points, because the skill will still get more expensive, as it always does. It's just that if you have the points, you can use it a butt ton of times. So that is a thing. You could use single alt swaps 5 times in a turn if you want, with, like Summer Shizu or the Hero 2.0 or Warrior's Mind Rimuru. You could do that, or the new Misery, because she's got it too. There are things. What I did in the stream was I used Aqua, because she's got Pierce Power. She's also got the Alt Rush ability. So in one turn, I was able to take Diablo from like 20% alt to EX alt, because I could just use this skill 4 or 5 times in one turn, which is really cool. But at the end of the day, that's the only thing that makes Violet different. And a lot of these nuking teams are not totally set up for you to use a hot number of skills every single turn, because you are still capped out by the limitation of how many skill points you got. And if you don't have a lot, you're not going to be using a whole butt ton of skills every single turn. So in that aspect, you're only really going to be using Violet as a traditional blue stacking protector. And at that, I'd call her average. Run of the mill, right? She doesn't do anything else that sets her apart from Visions of Coleus Lumi, right? She's still raising attack by 12%. That's what Lumi does as well. She still gives 100% up to 5% skill point gain on blues. Also what Lumi does. And then from turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, all the way to the end of time, until you hit 999, she gives you 50% or 50 skill cap. Also what Visions of Coleus Lumi does. So the only thing that makes them different is the teams they are buffing, and the fact that Lumi gives guaranteed synergy for everybody, and Violet lets you use skills an infinite number of times if you have the points for it. So they're not truly that much different. And this is a second anniversary character, right? She came out in November of 2023. It's now almost April of 2024, and they do almost the same thing. So Violet is really cool on paper. Like, you could let your mind run wild and use skills all the day, but in reality and in practice, not as efficient as you would like it to be to let your wildest dreams run true for big daddy damage with Diablo or whoever. So you can do fun things with it. Like, I'm going to put on 1,000,000 stacks of burn. We're going to try it out and use just vengeance for funsy onesies on a stage. We're going to definitely do fun things with it. But at the end of the day, she seems kind of run-of-the-mill, and Diablo is pretty limited in his buff skill. So the banner, while cool, and they definitely they did very well with their outfits, I don't know if it's really worth it. Honestly, if you already have a blue team, if you already have the Visions of Kolia's team, if you have the Warriors Mind team, I think you'll be fine for the most part. You might not clear Inferno 3 of Beatdown Battle, but, clearing Inferno 3 with not the meta team is fairly difficult anyways. And since we know that based on this image from the live stream earlier, that the 2.5 anniversary with 1 day to go is between the 8th and the 9th of March, which is not that far away. It means that the 2.5 anniversary is going to start earlier than normal. Earlier than normal. So we may still get a double featured unit banner. We may not. We may get a single and then a single and then Jubilee, and then it'll be the start of the next meta on the 25th. I do not know yet. We do not know because they've never released the or the half anniversary a week earlier than normal. But I think what we can infer from this more than anything else is that we are getting probably Blanc and probably a new version of Jean. Because if they want to bait us out of our crystals before the 2.5 Annie, they drop waifu. And everybody loves Blanc and Jean. And if we take a look at it even closer, this meta is built around space allies, right? Diablo's space AoE, which means we may get a single target space unit. Well, we already have Jean, who's space. So I highly doubt that we're going to get another space Jean, which leaves Blanc, who is not physical and not space, which means that I think there's like an 80% chance that we would get a space physical Blanc, and then a new Jean can be friggin' Earth, I don't know. Light, for all I care. They'll probably make her light, to be perfectly honest with you, or water. Not water, actually, because she'd be type disadvantage. Maybe fire. Probably light, though. So, realistically, probably going to get a space physical Blanc. Hot waifu, awesome. And Jean, some element, but also physical, because we don't have physical versions of either of these two characters. And if you like Jean and you like Blanc, they may be better units than Diablo. They may be less restricted than Diablo. And in that case, I would probably wait until we see their kits and determine if they're more worth it. So honestly, right now, I'd say save your crystals. We have another live stream coming out on the 9th, which should signify the start of the quote-unquote 2.5 anniversary. We should see at least one of these new characters' kits, maybe both of them. And that's only a week and change away. So if you're not totally sold on the meta, if you don't absolutely love the kits and love the outfits and love the character picks, then I would honestly say save your crystals for either the next banners or for the 25th down here. Because we know, based on the end date of Diablo's banner itself, that's when the next meta will start. And that's when the true half anniversary. So on the 25th right here, we will get that triple featured unit banner. We will get, probably an Isekai Revelry rate up, just like we did for last year, where, this slot right here would be Diablo and Violet, and then this slot would be Shizu or Blanc and Jean, and then we would move into the true 2.5 Annie triple featured unit banner, single. Guy still fantastic unit. Violet still fantastic unit. Valentine, Velzard, Rimuru is still better than these two, but they all kind of fall off. Good units here. I don't really use Milim or Frey. I also don't use Shizu or Hero that much either. I still use Guy, and I still use Violet. It should tell you something about the quality of banner that comes out for the true 2.5 anniversary. So I think most people should save. Diablo being limited, Violet being relatively generic, and not, overly super powered. I think it's a safe bet to save. But, that's my opinion. I've used them for an hour or so. I will do more testing. I will do the showcases and all that, and then you can see and then, judge for yourself. But that's my opinion. Probably a safe skip for now. But if you did happen to summon, let me know how that went in the comments below. But that's it for me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.